author of Last Comiskey, right there. See, Ken Smoller, right there. So, here it is, right here. You're going to sit on this side. I just realized something. I was supposed to be standing in front of the chairs. I mean, nobody cares. It doesn't really matter. Yeah, hold on. Let me turn that thing. Can we hear you?
Yeah, all these were the show meetings, and we throw things off.
Yeah.
You didn't tell me you were going blue either.
No, I forgot about that. I cleaned up that first joke. I did a pretty good job with that.
The kids had nervous stuff. It's good.
Yeah. Are you kidding? They got more information than we ever had at that age. All right, so tell us in a nutshell. I do have some notes here, but geez, I hate notes. Why'd you do it? No, let's say, what made you, I know Dr. David Fletcher suggested to you, and he's done a lot of work with his books and his Chicago Baseball Museum. So Fletcher's pretty well known in the name of Chicago baseball, and his family, they invented Fletcher Cam. You ever see those cameras, NHL and NBA on top? The remote cams on top of the hoops and in the hockey net? His family invented that. So Fletcher knows sports, and he said to you, you really should do this book. But tell me briefly how it went from there.
Yeah, I mean, it really all started back in 1990, and even before that, I was taking pictures of the ballpark in its last year, and I wanted to make sure that my memories were going to be preserved. And I kind of thought that someone needed to take care of taking these pictures and documenting what the ballpark was. This was after having photographed the ballpark for a handful of years as a little kid. And I just wanted to make sure that my memories were preserved. Lo and behold, 34 years later, the negatives were gathering dust in my storage, and Matt Flesch put out a call for photographs for his great film. And I was happy to share them just to get White Sox fans and baseball fans an opportunity to see the photos. And you know, my family's put up with me photographing stadiums for all these years. I've photographed about 2,300 stadiums throughout the world. Yes, I do acknowledge it's a little wacky and crazy. And my family has been patient enough to go through it, and they really encouraged me to finally do a book that incorporated my photographs as well as the stories that I tell on my travel blog, Stadium Vagabond. And when the documentary came out, I felt like it got such great feedback. We needed to have something to preserve the memories in a tangible form, and it came together rather quickly. And hopefully we'll do another book next year about all the sports stadiums and venues in the city of Chicago. But this really came out well, and through Tom's help and everyone else's, it's really something I think that we can be proud of and share with Sox fans and baseball fans alike.
Very good reason for doing it. I think you summed it up well, because it is nice to have a permanent record. And you know, you want to think, you know, I was in media for years. Rich is in it longer than I am. Cheryl Ray Stout was here tonight, another great sportscaster. She's not with us at the moment, but you know, she's been around for, gee whiz, I think 44 years. You want to think that you made your mark on the community, the sports community, and I think you've really made a long-standing record of this great ballpark and that season. And I think Matt's documentary has done that, you know, threefold. What I'd like to know is, when you started this business of photographing all stadiums, because you have a website called Stadium Vagabond. Remember that website, Stadium Vagabond. And you've got pictures of all sorts of stuff on there. What attracted you to stadia, mostly ballparks?
You know, I think it was just that this is a place where people assemble and get together from all walks of life. You know, one of the things I like to say is, when you go to a stadium, you get a sense as to who the people are in that city. Young, old, all ethnicities, rich, poor. You get a sense of their architecture, you get a sense of the foods that they serve in that city, their music, their personality. And for me, it's something that just becomes this never-ending scavenger hunt, where I'm always trying to capture these, and I drag my poor family everywhere I go to sporting events. And this is where it all started, was in Chicago. And it's just great to finally document my first stadium that I ever photographed when I was 11 years old.
Yeah, and there's some personal accounts in there of the last game. It was pretty touching, because when I edited the book, I really enjoyed it. I read it twice, that portion. Yeah, I don't know, man. You got a family who loves you and helps you with this. Is there anybody you'd like to introduce? I mean, I know Jamie. I met his wife for the first time. I never met her in person. I thought it was like his sister, daughter, maybe. I mean, how does she look so young putting up with you with all your...
I don't know.
Jesus.
Yeah, my wife Jamie and my kids, Charlie and Simon, have been absolutely fantastic. My father, Jerry, who cursed me as a White Sox fan, or blessed me, however you want to read it. And the rest of my family is here today. There's a reason you're hearing me called Kenny so many times. All my Chicago friends and family who still know me from that era are here. And I really appreciate all my high school and college and law school friends coming here. I actually can top it. Nancy Faust roadie, Adam Becker. It's my childhood friend who flew in from LA for this event.
Oh, and he served as Nancy's roadie tonight. Good.
Appreciate that.
He flew in from LA, did you say?
Yeah.
Wow, how about that?
So,
Wow, that's fantastic. I want to read this from Ken's blog, and then we're going to introduce our panel. This is the introduction to Ken's Stadium Vagabond website. In over 3 decades of extensive traveling, Ken has photographed over 2,350 stadiums in 47 states and 24 countries. Think about that. 2,350 stadiums. That's unbelievable, over 30 years, wow. And he's done that because his mantra is that one of the best ways to understand the culture and fabric of a place is through its sporting arenas and stadiums. Wow. Can you expand on that a little bit?
yeah, I just, everywhere I go, I want to experience what their sporting world is. And, we've gone to baseball games in Japan and soccer games in Athens and seen sumo wrestling and all kinds of different sports. And it's just something, it's a way to kind of get to different parts of cities and experience them. Unlike kind of the usual touristy things that we do as well. But my family has graciously, I think for the most part, come and joined along. And it's just a hobby that's fun to share with people. It's nice to be able to share the stories from the road with people through the website and now through these books as well.
Well, you've done a great job. I think it's fantastic. And thank you for putting this event together. And I think it's time now to meet some more people, don't you? Yeah, and I should actually, I want to officially shake your hand and congratulate you. Donn Pall, the Pope. Pope Donn Pall. The Pope, Donn Pall. And by the way, I knew I forgot a couple of people here. SABR, the Society for American Baseball Research, is here. Where's the big Pete? Where is he? Stand up. You're here somewhere. Come on now. There he is. SABR has some baseball cards of Donn Pall dressed up in papal gear called the Pope. Did you ever get those cards from that guy? You did? Okay, great. All right. And if you're not a member of SABR, the Society of American Baseball Research, you should be a member of SABR. Okay, our next guy. I mean, all you have to do around here is say 1983 American League Rookie of the Year. You know who he is. I know. 35 homers, 100 RBIs. And there he is, Ron Kittle, ladies and gentlemen. From Gary, Indiana. Talk about that, being from Northwest Indiana and being a star for the Chicago White Sox. Not bad. Also 10 years in the major leagues, which ain't easy to accomplish. I got to mention this. In 1990, he was traded to Baltimore in July. Frank Thomas was coming up. Things happened. Kitty, though, for the team in 1990, which surprised everybody by winning 94 games after 4 straight lousy seasons, Kitty had 16 home runs and 43 RBI in only 277 at-bats. I'll do the quick math for you. That translates to about 35 and 102. Not bad. Ron Kittle, ladies and gentlemen. All right. And last but certainly not least, this gentleman won the American League Cy Young Award in 1993. We know that. But in 1990, real breakout year for him, he started off slowly. He was 13-6 after May 20th. He started out 1-3. His 14 wins were crucial to this White Sox team doing what it did. That's when our young players made the statement that we're going to be heard from during the 1990s. And of course they were. For about 5 years, one of the best teams went to the playoffs and the whole shot. He had a complete game on August 20th against Oakland, which kept the Sox within striking distance. And that was when things were getting a little tight, August 20th. So we can keep talking about him. Three-time All-Star, led the American League in complete games 3 times, led the American League in games started 2 times, and this is my favorite stat. He pitched during a good part of the steroid era, and his lifetime ERA is 3.85. Adjusted for the DH, it's about 2.95, maybe 3.01. That's pretty good. And then if you adjust it for steroids, heck, he's a Hall of Famer. Ladies and gentlemen, Jack McDowell. Now, and I've been the guy communicating with Jack about getting him here, and he's been wonderful from start to finish. I want you to know that. 3 great guys up here, I can tell you that right now. And finally, last but not least, he never wore a Major League uniform. He never wore a Division I college uniform. Did you wear a high school uniform, Slick? Did you play baseball in high school? Oh, at North Park College, that's right. All right, he did play. He didn't play Division I, but that's pretty good. That's about 5 divisions higher than I ever played, I assure you. He produced Last Comiskey documentary. You've heard his name a lot, but his name is Matt Flesch, F-L-E-S-C-H. Matt Flesch, ladies and gentlemen. Guys, turn them on, make sure the mics are on, see if the light turns green. We got Kitty. Testing.
Hello.
All right, great. All right, well, I don't really know where to begin, so I think I'm going to just go with the highest uniform number, and that would be Kittle, maybe 42. So, what were your memories, first of all? See, the book and the documentary are twofold. It's the last season, but it's also, the ballpark. So let's take it in sequential order, Kitty, if we could, please. Your thoughts, and again, you grew up here, you went to games here. Walking into Comiskey Park as a Major League player, or that first time you took BP when they signed you and Bill Beck owned the team. Go ahead.
Well, let me say one thing. I think you forgot introducing 2 people in the audience.
Great, go ahead.
I don't know which one the 2 was, but he introduced everybody. No, we just got to pick on them. We've known each other for a long time.
We've known each other a long time. Oh, I'd like to, my tailor is up in the back. He did this for me. All right.
So I got called up in '82. My first vision was I smelled the hot dogs and the onions. And I think everybody at the ballpark knows that's a great aroma out there, but I just wanted to play. I didn't care where it was. I didn't care what the stadium was. I knew about it because I was there as a kid, and it was a great honor. Everybody said, what was your biggest highlight? I said, my first paycheck. It was really cheap. It was like $1,000 or $1,300. I mean, that's embarrassing, isn't it? What they're getting now. But no, I had good teammates, good friends, and it was just serious business, and I wanted to go out there and play as good as I possibly could. That was all I ever thought about.
Now, the game I remember is early in the year, Robin Ventura started out 0 for 42. He scratched out an infield hit for his first hit. It was against Kansas City early in the year. And I want to thank, you get a little forgetful in your older years. And Dan Dorfman, the sports writer I introduced, another introduction, did a lot of research for this event. Thank you, Dan. That was early in the season against Kansas City. It was in May, and Ventura gets his first hit. You guys were down in the 8th inning, what, 4-1? 4-1, and Ventura hits a home run, which is terrific. You hit a pinch hit, 2-run homer to tie the game. Do you recall that game specifically? I often wonder if you players remember these things the way we do as fans.
Well, I remember him going 0 for 38 because I made him autograph one of his bats to me. And he wrote on there, Kitty, yes, I suck. 0 for 38, Robin Ventura. And that game, he wound up getting his first hit or whatever it was in the game. But, they just kind of blend together. I mean, you're there, Jack, Don, everybody's there to win and get the best we possibly get out on the field. There's circumstances he ain't gonna let you win sometimes, but God, Robin, he was a gamer. He never said 5 words. But the night before, I had a suite in Kansas City, and he was still 0 for 38. And I got a couple bottles of rum, and we sat up there, and we started talking baseball, and I think it might have helped him relax.
Maybe, maybe. Well, those are big home runs you guys hit. I mean, come on, pinch hit, 2-run shot to tie it. Jack, your year was a real interesting year because it wasn't your rookie year, it wasn't your first year, but you really came into your own. What are your memories of 1990 and what that team meant? And we saw a lot of images of good old number 29 striking guys out and everything else. That's what we remember. What do you recall from the 1990 final year of Comiskey?
Just starting to get a better team. You know, we're on the, how funny is that we're in the West Coast? That was the place we were in, but we had to beat all those teams. And you know how good the A's were for all those times, and we just kept getting a little better every year and getting closer to them, closer to them, closer to them, and then being able to get them finally.
Mm-hmm. Playing for Jeff Torborg, he was a terrific manager that year. Did he do anything in particular for you, or was it a tone that he set? Because I was a big Torborg fan. I thought Ron Schuler made a huge mistake encouraging him to go to the Mets a year later. But what do you remember about Jeff as a manager and Sammy Ellis, the pitching coach?
I was just, you know, teaching how to do stuff. You know, and it's constant learning. You don't just know what to do all the time. Sports in general, and especially baseball, is all just about making your adjustments as you go and figuring stuff out. Oh, I'm doing this, but that's not working very well. You got to switch that. You know, if you're swinging and you're doing a swing and that's not working for you, you got to switch it up, right? And that's everything. You know, the way you throw a pitch, or if you try to throw a new pitch, and you know it's not working well, you just got to either keep working your adjustments or don't do it. And that happened to me one time that year that they taught me to throw a slider, and like 2 out of the 5 that I first threw were home runs. And I said, okay, I'm not going to throw this one anymore. So I stopped throwing the slider that they tried to teach me.
Kind of, you went with what had been working for you, and yeah. Well, what was it that, did you do something in particular that was different from your slow start 1-3? I mean, record doesn't always indicate. I remember a couple of games where they committed some errors behind you that weren't ruled errors, so that changes your ERA. But the point is, come on, 13-6 the rest of the way. Do you remember any specific change or changes you made from, say, I don't know, late May forward in 1990?
Why do you always think it's the pitcher who's going to win a game? The team wins the game. Making good plays, making hits, and situational, putting the ball in play sometimes when they need to, you know, rather than trying to just hit a home run. There's just situational stuff that needs to happen. Your team plays to win. It's not just the pitcher. You know, you don't just get your win because it was just you.
Right. Well, that's a good point, because Barry Jones had a great year that year. He had 10 wins by early July. And he should have been on the All-Star team. He got jobbed. But he got traded to Montreal after the year for Tim Raines. He's a good pitcher for us for that year. And I remember thinking, I said to him once, like, what's going on? I mean, he was a journeyman player, and all of a sudden he's got 10 wins. He was a little bit of a vulture, but he came out of the bullpen, you know. And he said, the guys are making plays. And he starts reciting 5 words, because I covered that team. And on Channel 5 used to send me to every game. And he said, guys are making plays. And, you know, did you notice this guy moved the runner over, gave himself up, and then the guy stole third. I think Lance Johnson stole third, scored a winning run in the 8th inning. The bullpen thing, he held him. He had the record number of saves that year, and he held him in the 9th. So I see what you're saying. It is a team game. It ain't golf.
Oh, yeah, it is all about the team and overall. You got to overall do it and do different things and just be able to get it done. It's situational.
I think I'm the one that turned his career around. And I told him I was going to tell this story. I remember everything in detail. I wish I didn't. His head is so full of useless shit. He's pitching, and he's a competitor, and he's full of fire up there on the mound. And we're playing Oakland, and he's 1-2 count on Giambi or some big left-handed hitter, and I'm playing first base. And we had a little chit-chat out there with Ozzie, and he comes up and goes, I'm going to pound him inside. Well, Well, I'm at first. This ball came at 400 miles an hour in my neck. Went down the left field line, and I go, way to pound it in. So Jack had this, he had his glove in front of his face going, almost killed the guy.
Almost took your head off.
But, he had the stuff. He just didn't get it in enough. And that's how you got to learn.
Donn Pall, local guy, playing for the Sox. The story's been told a million times. I guess let's hear it for Donnie. Sure. I don't even know where to begin. Jack started that final game at Comiskey, but let's take it backward. What do you remember about the final day at the ballpark? Because you're a fan saying goodbye to this park as well.
I mean, I loved it because I grew up going to games as a kid, watching the team, sitting all over the place. So I remember being there as a fan. I was there for Disco Demolition. I was a fan there for it. So it meant so much. So the last day there, I think I felt like it meant probably more to me than anybody else on our team. I mean, everybody else was big, but for me, just all my past history and stuff. I remember just the days before that, I was just walking around the stadium and sitting behind a pole. I just remember what it was like to sit a fan behind a pole, sitting out, in the bleachers and stuff. So those were my memories. And I always wondered if I'd ever get to play on that field, when I was a fan. And then I finally got to be a player, and I was on that field, and it was just the coolest. So to me, that was like, people ask me a lot of times, what was the highlight of my career? And really, I tell them usually it was that last game, being there on the field for the last game of Old Comiskey. Even though I didn't play at all, it was still one of the highlights of my career, really.
Amazing. And you look at the season itself. I recited some of your stats. I mean, that stretch you had, though, late August into September. Again, 6 1/3 innings, no runs. Just a real solid, reliable stretch. You had a couple other games that year that I remember distinctly, and I mentioned some of them. Forget all that noise. What do you remember specifically about that year? I mean, you're in the documentary talking about life in the bullpen and all. Is there anything else, anything in particular you'd like to tell us about tonight?
Just how cool it was, because like Jack said, we were brutal before that. A couple years before that, we were a terrible team. And all of a sudden, it's the last year, I felt like we were going to go to the playoffs. I thought there was going to be something magical about the stadium for the last year, that somehow we were going to do it. Because, I don't know, we were on that team in Birmingham and Rickwood last year. Yeah, because we were playing in Birmingham in AA for the Sox last year at Rickwood Field. And our team won the whole championship there. And I thought we'd do the same thing in Old Comiskey. But it was just those games against Oakland, and like I had in the video, I talked about landing at Midway Airport and seeing all the fans out there. It was just incredible, and just such a difference, and the excitement and stuff, and it was just magical is all I can really say about it. It was just so cool for me just to be I'm just a regular guy. I think a regular guy as a fan, on the South Side, to be part of that. It was like a whole fantasy for me to be able to do all that.
Really fantastic. What a great story. And Matt Flesch? Sure, why not? Matt Flesch, you brought so many of these stories, to us through the documentary Last Comiskey. Can you please briefly tell our audience how you came to do the documentary? And I will tell them, as another way of introduction, the number of documentaries Matt Flesch had made before Last Comiskey was 0. It was his first one, and he created a masterpiece, which is really amazing. I spent, as I said, 31 years in television. I've never seen that. Not fantastic. So, tell us how this came about and what it was like, because all 3 of these gentlemen cooperated with you and appeared in the documentary.
Yeah, it was, it was around the time of COVID, and, there wasn't a lot to do. That documentary, The Last Dance, came out. Me and my brother Mike were thinking, God, what would be a cool documentary is the last season at Old Comiskey Park. But it's like such a deep cut. Like, you have to be a big Sox fan to really have lived that and loved it. We're like, no one's gonna make this, so let's try to make it. So yeah, I had never done anything like it before, and decided to give it a whirl. And I think one of the big reasons why we were able to do it is, one, there's so many people here tonight that it's so fun to finally meet in person. And I'm looking at some of you, John Rudnick over there, Stephanie Walters over there. We crowdsourced all this video using Twitter. So just old home video of the park. So social media got us there. And Nancy Faust gave us all this home video from the last game, which was huge. And then, I'm like, how am I gonna get Jack McDowell to do an interview with me, right? I've never done anything before. Like, he's not gonna respond to my message. Jack responded to my message right away, no problem. And I think like you were willing to do it because it was a Zoom, right? Like if I was like, hey, can I come to your house and do an interview? You'd be like, no way, I don't know who you are. The fact that we had Zoom, all you guys were open to that, and it kind of created this, everybody knew how to use Zoom all of a sudden because that's how you're talking to your grandkids and your kids and all that. So it just opened up that door. But I gotta ask a quick question of Jack McDowell, as long as I got you here. So we were talking backstage about pitch counts, right? And everybody now, you throw 100 pitches and you're out of the game. But out in making this documentary, I look at the pitch counts and it's like Jack McDowell 148 pitches, Dave Stewart 170 pitches, or something ridiculous. Why don't people do that anymore? Why don't they go deep in counts? Like, what's your take on the state of the game and pitch counts?
I don't know why they're doing that, but to get taken out of a game, it's not just because of where you are. They preset when you're going to get out of the game. What if you're doing great?
Yeah.
They've taken guys out that have no hitters going all the way through. I mean, what are they doing? I don't understand that. And they talk about the pitch count thing is the injuries. That's not true. That's not the truth. Throwing a certain amount of pitches is not the truth of where the injuries are coming from.
Where are they coming from?
All right. The injuries from pitching are coming from having to try to overthrow now. Because you're not going to have your same movement all the time. You're going to oomph it a little bit more. It doesn't make any sense because that is going to make your muscle do something different every time, rather than your mechanics go. Mechanics. Just keep going with that. And everybody, old school pitchers, know that if you were a little bit off of your mechanics, the next day you wake up and just go, oh my gosh, I'm so sore and I only threw 25 pitches and got killed. I just wasn't doing good. Then you can throw a long time, tons of pitches, and wake up the next day and go, wow, I can pitch today too. That's the truth. And I have talked to so many pitchers about that same stuff. And that's one of the things that bugs me about all the metric stuff that is changing all the game stuff, because the truth doesn't count anymore.
I hear you. This is, you really should be a pitching coach. We could get into that. You're coaching your kids though, aren't you? Yeah. I also want to give a shout out to, I mentioned Eric King, he had 12 wins that year. You just don't often hear his name. Major contributor that year. And Greg Hibbert, the little bulldog, had 14 wins that year. So another big deal. And I didn't hear, those guys wanted the innings. I didn't hear anybody getting pulled out, or even the short guys were not saying, oh, you're going to pitch one inning.
You want to hear a funny thing about the pitching stuff now? Okay. I did the math on this. What is the difference between 100 miles an hour and 90 miles an hour? Miles an hour from probably 55 feet. So what is that? And I did the math on it. Like, how much quicker does 100 miles an hour get to the plate as 90 does? 6 inches. You can go do the math and see. I'm not lying. That's the truth. It's just a 6-inch difference. So if you're trying to overthrow, like they're doing now, and they do that and throw, rather than getting out in front, you release the ball a foot more out in front, and it's when it releases your hand until it gets to home plate. It's not going to increase the speed that they're measuring, but it's actually going to get there quicker. And one of the funny things that I always tell dudes is go look at the difference that Randy Johnson made. I mean, he threw so hard. I faced him in college ball and all that, and he threw super hard. But when he just got dominating and just when he had the Nolan Ryan taught him stuff to get out in front more, and he was 6'11",
Amazing.
huge. So by the time he got out in front, he was like thrown from Little League.
So basically,
Not only did he get there, but his mechanics got better, and he just dominated the rest of his career. You can go check that out.
so with lousy mechanics targeting more speed, you are getting a net loss in delivery point. Simple statement.
Yeah,
Wow.
you
Amazing.
have to be able to do your adjustment, but how are you going to adjust when you're doing something different every time?
During 1990, the White Sox, Kansas City was the class of the league. I mentioned we had come off 4 straight bad years. I'm telling you, they were bad. The team, Memorial Day is usually the cutoff point, and at that time the White Sox were, at one point they were 25-10, I think. Was it 25-15? Good record early. Clearly this year was not going to be the same. And all of a sudden, the White Sox organist, a lovely lady by the name of Nancy Faust, started playing "I'm a Believer" for White Sox victories. And she would. That's it. I'm a believer if I try. That's great. So that's the kind of year it was at Sox Park. Kenny, some of the pictures you took, give me 2 or 3 that stand out, even if it's the last day, whatever, because they're all taken, these are pictures you just don't see.
Yeah, one of the more unusual experiences was watching Andy Hawkins of the Yankees get a no-hitter over the White Sox, but the White Sox won 4-0, based on a Jim Leyritz error, and there's another outfielder that had an error. And it was a game that I almost missed because I got nabbed at the door by a security guard who saw me trying to take a bat for bat day. And I apparently was too old. He grabbed me by the arm. He dragged me to Comiskey Jail. Brian Powers, the architect here, I don't know if we have a photograph of the Comiskey Jail or an image in your 3D interpretation of the park, but I barely talked my way out of it and got to see, it was the anniversary of the ballpark on July 1, its final anniversary, and I almost missed it because I was deemed to be an unlawful bat taker. So I got out of Comiskey Jail, I took my seat, and saw the White Sox miraculously win with no hits, and got some really cool photos of that. And then Tom Seaver, former White Sox player, was the announcer for the Yankees at the time. So we got a nice photo of him, and that whole section is, those photographs are in the book as well.
That was a pretty memorable day. Remember Turn Back the Clock Day when they had no electricity? We used an old scoreboard and everything. That was thought up by Chuck Adams, was the White Sox PR director for that. I think only for 1 year. Rob Gallus got credit, but he didn't come up with that. Chuck Adams did.
I have to share a story. I just made a mistake in the green room. I talked about Jack McDowell had a great start on that game, and then I said, unfortunately, the bullpen let you down. And then Don just jumps in and said, whoa, 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 don't blame us.
So you said I let them down. Well, because I got the loss in that game. I'll remember it clearly. And I tell a story, I got engaged the day before. And my wife was thinking I'm going to be such great luck for me and all. And I lose the lost next game. But Jack did a great job. We had the lead, and I'm pretty sure either Jonesy or Thiggy gave it up or something. And it came in extra innings after all the good guys were in. That was extra innings. And
Turn Back the Clock Day.
It was a 9-0 blown lead, I believe, and the Brewers came back 12-9.
What do you remember? Go ahead.
No, please.
No, we've got a lot going on here. Matt, before we go back to the players, pick one game that you remember from that year, please.
Yeah, I remember me and my brother, it was the last game we went to at Old Comiskey Park. I think it was like July 20th against the Brewers, and it was just an awesome game, sold out game of the week. And I remember who was pitching. Melito Perez was pitching that game. And Ozzie Guillen won it on a walk-off single up the middle, and the crowd went crazy, nah, hey, hey, goodbye, like all the way out of the park. And it was like, at that moment I realized how awesome Comiskey Park was. It kind of sunk in then, how special it was. Unfortunately, that was the last year. But that game definitely is among the best games I've ever been to. It was awesome.
And I'll bet you if we go out here, we'll get a lot more memories too. And by the way, I almost forgot, we're supposed to do Q&A. So Sharon Panazzo has a microphone. We're going to go out to the crowd here. You ask your questions. Just raise your hand and she'll go from one side of the room to the other. Right now, she's on this side of the room. All right, here's our first question.
Bernie's got a question.
Bernie has a question.
It's not really a question.
Well, we got to have questions, Bernie, now.
Well, it's, all right, it's a question. I'll get it.
Ask it in the form of a
I would
question.
just like to say to Donn Pall, we spent many years as the White Sox advertising agency doing different commercials on the field. Funny ones with Ron Kittle many times, funny ones with Tom Shaer later. But I was talking, you know, Donn Pall just kind of wandered around one time and he said to me, you know what would really be, he didn't even say what would be funny. What he said was, you know what, we always sit in the bullpen and we scream and say, we would love to go to that guy's office and say, you really blew that contract, Jones, you know? And he said, that would be a great commercial. And he gave us the idea. And he was right. And I tried to sell it, Don, and nobody ever bought it. I tried my
That's a great idea.
to sell it because it was a great idea.
That's almost like Peyton Manning when he was cheering on the insurance adjusters and the guy slicing the meat in the deli. That's the same thing almost.
Yeah, it was great. And I always think of it, Don, so.
That's typical Donn Pall. Always finding a little fun at the
He's got a
ballpark.
question.
All right, anybody else with a question for the boys?
Question?
All right, we got some up in the back of the room. That's fine. Sharon will go up there. While Sharon's on her way up there, I want to ask you fellas, you had that series against Oakland where you lost 3 out of 4. It was a 5-game losing streak overall. Next thing you know, you swept Oakland the next time you played them. Do you have any specific memories of that series? Or, and again, I don't expect you guys to remember every doggone game, but do you remember when things were kind of crappy and then all of a sudden you swept Oakland, the big homer by Pasco and whatnot? Do you have any recollections of that, Jack and Don?
Not like
That's okay.
recollections of what happened. It's just we just played a little better game. You know, that's what it's all about. Maybe they made some more errors. Maybe they did some line drives to 150 miles an hour right at ours. Dudes, guess what? You're out.
It does happen.
Lazy pop-up might be a hit, but you know what? You're just lined out at 120 miles an hour.
I do remember that game on Pasco with that home run, that Stewart went the whole game, and I think we were beating them. I think he went in the clubhouse because he thought that the game was going to be over, they were going to lose, and they came back and scored. And I think we had to wait for the next inning to start because he wasn't out. He was getting undressed in the shower or something. He came back out there, you know, after a little while because he had to get dressed and run back out. And nobody does this anymore. The 10th inning, the starting pitcher is still in there, you know. So he goes back out there, and we're all hating Dave Stewart, you know, or yelling at him. That Pasco hit the home run out of him. We just loved it. Remember that? Great.
Like, you know why he was mad? You know what the funny thing is we said? You remember that? He came back out as he was going to have a loss, and he went out, and he came back out. I don't know how that happened, why Dave came back out to pitch again, and they're like, oh, you're going to have 2 losses today, dude. And that was why he got frustrated and made that comment that, you know.
Yeah, not carry the jock. That was just fantastic. Okay, back in the room. Go right ahead, please.
Hi, I have a question for Jack, please. So now with pitching, you only have 20 seconds to throw a pitch in between. Before you mentioned that it was, you know, there were injuries that from the way people threw the ball. What do you think that does nowadays? Does that cause more injuries because you have a time limit?
I don't think that is really the injury cause. You know, I just think, because if you just have to throw it a little quicker, it's just mentality. You got to be ready. You know, throw the pitch and then be ready for the next pitch. I don't think that is, and I've seen that people have said that that is what's causing injuries. It's not. It's trying to overthrow, and only thing that's cared about now is velocity and not actual pitching. What is pitching? pitching, think about pitching, up, down, in and out, and being able to just mess with everything. And, after a while, you would know, oh, this guy crushes pitches on the inside, I gotta go outside. This guy crushes pitches up here, this guy. That's the kind of stuff that you have to be able to do to pitch. It's pitching, not just velocity.
That's it. Very well said. Very well said. All right, also in the back of the room, go right ahead.
Hey, as an old-time Sox fan, going back to when they were giving out free vouchers to the straight A's back in '77. Chip Lemon and all that. I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight, Ken for putting this together, celebrities for putting it on, and Nancy, take me out to the ball game.
All right, we're gonna have Nancy walk us out of here with the right song at the end. But in the meantime, we have room for a couple more questions. Raise your hand if you want to ask us. I don't want to stiff anybody. Okay, hold on, 1, 2, and then 3. We'll do 3 questions. So we'll do here, here, and then up there. Okay, go ahead.
This is for any of the players. Do you guys have any good stories about playing with Fisk?
The commander, Carlton Fisk. I think
Donnie said he's the greatest catcher he ever threw to, and I told him he was full of shit. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Pudge is a big guy, and he was a great hitter, don't get me wrong, Hall of Famer. He's my neighbor, and he used to come over all the time to steal my whiskey and my cigars. Now he don't come over at all, because he can't smoke or drink anymore, but he's still my neighbor. And he was so big, and Jack, if you threw to Karkovice, when a lefty or righty throws a pitch inside, you catch it like this. Pudge was always catching it out of the strike zone. So in '83, when he was catching, all our pitchers never wanted to throw to him. And Tony La Russa said, he's making millions, he's gonna catch. But he used to take, and I came up as a catcher, and I was pretty good, but I stopped because he signed for 6 years and I was making $32,000. So that's how it works. But Pudge was good, he took control, he was the slowest person in the world. I mean, we'd be in the outfield, Harold goes, come on, hurry up! We're screaming at him because he was the pokiest guy in the world out there. But you know what he did? He commanded you out there, do your best job out there. And he'd stay on you. Because I've seen him, I don't know if he did it at your era, but he would punch a pitcher. He'd walk out there and hand the ball, and he'd hit the pitcher in the chest. He'd say, get your head out of your ass. Throw this pitch. And it worked a lot of times. It did. You come in, you got to pump these guys up.
Go ahead, guys.
Yeah.
Well, you want to know, he would call the pitch. They didn't call the pitch from, upstairs. We would play the game. The guys that knew what was going on and what was doing. So he would call all my pitches. You want to know when the first time that I shook my head to change it? It's the last game. That's true. It was the last game in Comiskey. You can go back and look that I shook because it was a 2-1 count, and he called a fastball, and I said no, I wanted my splitter forkball, and threw it, and there was a strike, and then got out of the inning, and he goes, why are you shaking my pitch up? I said, it's the first one in years. It's the first one that I've shook off in years, and I told him because guess what? My split's getting better, the forkball's getting better, I'm having a bunch of different feels for it, it's doing different things, so let's just, get more to that. And that was the very first time.
That was your 3rd season in the major leagues, I believe.
Yeah.
That never
Never had shaken off a pitch until that one pitch. And I totally remember that. He was so mad that I did that one shake off. I'm like, well, come on, man, I threw a strike. He didn't do nothing.
What about the Pope Donn Pall? You remember anything about pitching to Fisk?
One time I did shake him off and went to my pitch and I gave up a home run to Brooke Jacoby. It was the worst feeling. I thought he could go out there and kick my butt, man. It was terrible. But I love pitching to Fisk on the field, but you hated when he wasn't starting and using the bullpen, because the backup catcher would be in the bullpen warming guys up. In the bullpen, you get the phone rings, you got to go fast. You're up there, you're throwing, give me the ball back, I'm going, I get ready right away. Fisk is catching, you throw one, he's there, he gets up, he throws this, gets back down. It takes forever to get ready. field.
Go ahead, Jack.
One of the old school things that used to happen with pitching that he did a couple times that I saw and freaked me out because I never knew was sometimes when you pitched back in the day and you wanted to mess with the hitter, you would throw a pitch almost right at them so they would jump out of the way, and then you could know you could throw to the outside the next pitch. And you don't gotta do that. These guys get hit and they get free bases if they get hit. Why would you want to hit a guy? But there was a thing that Pudge did a few times that freaked me out. You want to be the hitter right now? Stand up and you're the hitter. Okay. There's the hitter, there's home plate. We call fastball in. Literally, and you can, I would have to go back and look at my own videos to find that out, but he would stand with his glove right behind the dude. And I'm a rookie, and I'm like, I'm supposed to dot the glove. Am I supposed to throw this through the guy's kidneys? What's going on?
So Jack, you have a bit of a headhunter reputation. Was it deserved, or was it Pudge that was really your henchman, that you were just filling out his orders?
He knew what he was calling as far as adjustments.
He knew what he wanted.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. And of course, their manager is a former catcher, Jeff Torborg, the manager of the year. So lots of instructions, but Fisk was the commander. I covered Fisk for 6 years in Boston, so when I came here, he was especially helpful to me. And Rich King knows, he could be a little prickly, as you guys know, but we got along great. In Boston, Mickey Rivers and Jerry Remy were roommates on the Angels in the mid to late 70s. Boston got Jerry Remy before the 1978 season. And the Yankees come into town for the first game. Big rivalry, right? And Remy goes over to say hello to Mickey Rivers, who was playing with the Angels before, the Yankees got him, so he knew him from the Angels, is what I mean to say. They traded him for Bobby Bonds in the offseason. And he's over talking to Mickey Rivers. And they talk very briefly, they finish, and Remy comes over and Fisk takes him aside and says, "Hey, we don't do that here." You never talked to Mickey Rivers for 5 more years in the major leagues. Okay. We have one question here and then down here. Go ahead.
Okay, this is for the three of you, plus Nancy. Has anybody ever objected to one of Nancy's walk-up songs? No. Because the kids now, they get to pick their own for softball and travel baseball and all that stuff. I just want to know if anybody ever came to you and said, "I don't like that song."
Oh, yeah, you know what? I forgot we even gave you a microphone, sweetie. Go ahead. Turn the switch on. I'm sorry. It'll take a second to turn green. Is it green?
It's green.
Okay.
I was hoping you'd forget that you gave me this microphone. I'd rather express myself musically. But when I played what they now call walk-up music, I was totally doing it for the entertainment of the fans. And I don't think the ball players paid any attention, because if they had, I'd probably have been ejected from the park. You know, you can't do things like play you can't sit down when George Brett has hemorrhoid surgery. I was most fortunate to be enlightened by the fans that surrounded me, because they seemed to know so much about all the players and what was going on, and I really didn't. I had never been to a baseball game, actually, before my first game.
Right.
So, and I was most fortunate also to have been placed outside with people surrounding me, and it was so well received. And thanks, Mr. Beck, for that.
Yep. No, it was a great idea. Listen. And I'm sorry to interrupt your applause there, but the documentary has a lot of stuff in there about Nancy, and I also want to mention to you, just please make a mental note of this. ESPN did about a 10-minute feature on Nancy inventing "Na Na Hey Hey" as a get lost, to the other team. And Mike Veck claimed that he did in one interview somewhere. I mean, the Vecks never meant a story they didn't like, but Mike Veck did not come up with that idea. Nancy did, and ESPN established it in this piece. So get on. Is it on? It's on ESPN.com or YouTube. Just Google ESPN Nancy Faust "Na Na Hey Hey." You'll find it. It's a great 10-minute feature. And Nancy's all over the documentary, which Matt has very eloquently described about how key Nancy was to the whole
Well,
thing.
Matt's been so kind, because I think originally I contacted Matt and I said, Matt, this is so good, your 10-minute piece, you know, you got to get it out there. You only got like 12 followers on Twitter.
Because he had originally put out about 10 minutes of this documentary.
Yeah, I mean, and it grew from there, and you got all these wonderful people participating, but you never forgot that, you never
It
forgot
started
me.
with you, Nancy. It really
You
did.
never forgot.
You were such a
I'm
huge
touched
part
by
of that ballpark. You played the most years at Comiskey, right? Than any other player, so.
Get for living long.
But who's the only guy in the world that gave you a chicken?
Oh, well, that was you. That was, because an adoring fan gave you a chicken and you didn't want it, and I said, I'll take it.
I was nice to this elderly couple with their daughter, and they're farmers down south. And they came back the next day, they were so nice, and they handed me a chicken, live chicken. So Nancy was leaving, and I said, Nancy, you get room for a chicken? And she took it.
And I
I think she
did.
ate it for dinner about 6 weeks later.
Nancy has
Birdie.
She and Joe have a lot of land up in the north suburbs, and you've got a donkey.
Well,
And,
the other thing that, animal that I got thanks to the ballpark was Bill Vick promotional giveaway. One of his store prizes was a real live donkey, and nobody claimed it. And I asked him if I could have it, he let me have my donkey. And that was many, many years ago, Rosita.
yeah, it's unbelievable. And Nancy's winter home in the area, this Phoenix area, I have a home in Scottsdale. She has a big barn and a yard, and the donkeys have been there, and oh, it's terrific. All right, last question, right here.
Ron, I have a quick last question for you. Who hit more rooftop homers, you or Greg Bull-Lisinski?
I did. I hit 7, and Bull hit 3, and Halo had an advertising thing, marketing with Lisinski for hitting 3 home runs, and they gave $10,000 bonus away to somebody. Well, I tied him that day. So Bull was on the roof at the pre-game, before the game started, when he had 3 and I only had 2. And they took the promotion away from him, so it cost him 30 grand. And he still cusses me out every time he hears that story. But, I hit one, I think in 1990, my last year. It was 28 degrees. And, unbelievable.
That home run, I believe, Dan, when was it, April or May? April. It is believed to have been the last rooftop homer in Comiskey, because we don't think anybody else did it the rest of that year. Pretty sure that was the
There
last
was only
one.
one fly out to the outfield the whole game.
Wow.
And somebody hit it like a blooper to center field. That was only fly ball. And the story is, Chen Kopic was there. And he was doing broadcast. Can I tell the story?
Yeah, go ahead.
So he parked behind the outfield, left field wall by Battery Park over there. So just listened, and all the old guys had radios. They listened to the game on radio. And Kittle with a drive, and it goes up, boom, boom, on the roof, in the parking lot out there. And a kid named John Witt, W-I-T-T, got the ball. So Chet thought he was cool, probably had his fur coat on or something like that. And said, hey, that's the home run ball. I'll give it to Kittle, and I'll give you his autograph back. So the kid did. Chet came to the locker room and grabbed one of my bats, but I never signed it. Chet signed it. But I know John, and I gave him a real bad game bat later on. So now we've got 2 of them. I go, well, sell the fake one, get some cash. So I have that ball at home.
John Witt actually was my neighbor growing up. We used to stand there and wait for cars to go by and throw up the ball and try and hit the car. So
Hey, he told me to tell you hello today.
yeah,
He sent me a text.
that's right.
Well, this has been really outstanding. I don't know what to say. For those of you who pre-ordered a book and don't have the copy with them tonight, Ken will sign a book plate sticker and give that to you tonight. You can bring it home and put it into your book. Please remember the hashtag Last Comiskey for social media. And we really want to remind you that the books and the photography products are available outside. Bottom line, as has been suggested, we'll just change the song. We're going to wrap it up. We want to thank Donn Pall, Ron Kittle, Jack McDowell, Ken Smoller, Matt Flesch, Nancy Faust. And my name is Tom Shaer. Thanks, everybody. Let's walk this out with now. Hey, hey, goodbye.
I forgot, this is an original Comiskey Park brick. Original Comiskey Park brick that was brought here tonight by Dan Dorfman.